This is going to be the year of, I think, worker empowerment. Even though so many are sidelined right now, I think that the future of work is being written right now. And why is it being written? Well, we just went through a pandemic and we're still in it. And it won't be the last of them. We're going to go through a series of culture shocks and future shocks and things like that. Because of that, James, I'm sensing that our workforce is going to need to be an agile workforce. That everything about a person who engages with work is going to be valued based on their agility to respond to quick changes and even quicker opportunities. Do I have that right?
So I love that because I think it goes kind of full circle to hire based on agility, hire based on resilience, hire based on adaptability, hire based on core human skills, because you can train on top of that. You can train hot skills, core skills on top of that in a majority of the time. I absolutely agree. I think this is the year where employees recognize that it is a relationship, and it is a equal relationship. If anything, it's an employer actually led relationship. So I say equal, but it's not. I mean, we believe it's a 49%, 51%. We have to give more than we take if we want to retain and cultivate our talent. And I think companies are realizing, and they're now going to have to follow through on their hashtags, on their statements, and they're going to actually have to follow through and deliver on that, because people are going to want to work at the companies that during this moment, and this moment being everything about 2020, did the right thing. Because this is going to be, it's all about, and without getting too deep, the wrong side of history, right side of history, but the companies that took care of their employees that were furloughed. I mean, we have one CEO, and I've talked about this a few times, that every week he does a town hall with all of his laid off tens of thousands of people. Here's what's happening. Here's what's going on in the market. Here's what you should be aware of. Here's what we're thinking for recovery. Also, here are some tools. Here are some people with job openings. Here are some things we're doing. That is a CEO where every one of those people that were laid off are cheering at the end of it. They're cheering for a guy that literally laid them off, because he knows how to be a leader. And that is a leader that everyone looks at and says, I want to work for him. And they do.
Well, no, I got sidelined because you had to save the company. But in that same token, a leader will say, I want to keep you engaged because hopefully this is temporary and I value you and I want to bring you back in some capacity.
Yeah, and you can have a business case, or you can say, I want to be engaged because this is really shitty. And it's our duty and our obligation as an organization to say, we have more power, resources, people, stuff, things to be able to perhaps help you during this time. And it might not be all the things you want, cash, it might be the other things, but that's okay too. Whether it's, you're saying, I want to do an MBA program, and your former employee is saying, we will co-sponsor, we'll pay for it. Where in the world would an organization pay for the learning and education of someone they just laid off, in a world where they realize that you're coming back because you're going to like this organization, you're going to go out, you're going to get some new skills, new opinions, new networks, new whatever, and you're going to come back because the grass isn't greener. And I think companies who know that are putting their eggs in a basket and saying, let's just deliver excellence across the board. And my final point around that is something I think the Starbucks CHRO said, which is treat everyone like a customer. Everyone like your best customer, period. And the best way to represent that for me is if you walked into the BMW dealership and you said, look, thank you for showing me the car. I'm actually going to buy a Mercedes. The rep has two choices. Either get out, you wasted my time, I'm not getting commission, and you've wasted all of this, or congratulations, it's an amazing car. We wish you health and happiness. I'm going to ping you in 3 years when your lease is up. Are you okay with that? You have two choices. And that's how we think about every action people have with an organization. Would you do this to your greatest customer? And if the answer is yes, amazing. If the answer is no, change it, period.
A couple of weeks ago, I ran an episode of the Tightrope podcast with my lifelong best friend, Stu Katz. And we talked about what being at summer camp meant to us now over 50 years since we first became friends at summer camp. And the glue that holds us all together is our alumni group. We have a ragtag bunch of over 500 people, but within that bunch of people are some rock stars. People that I go to if I'm not well, if I need legal advice, if I need ideas for my podcast, whatever it might be. They are people I trust. I would imagine that is the enduring value of your platform. If you do it right, if your clients do it right, you now have an ecosystem that pays dividends well beyond that person leaving your company.
Finding your tribe. I think that's what life is about. Finding your tribe. I totally agree with you. One of my first jobs, I still know 3 or 4 people that started the same day as me. We all started at the same place at the same time. And every time we talk, I think we talk about the same story every single year. Every time we talk to each other, I think we still laugh at the same idiot thing that Tim did on his first day where he nearly brought down everything. But the point being is those are the moments that connect us, finding your tribe around things that are important. And it doesn't necessarily have to be meaningful work. And that's it. It goes back to your point, skills-based volunteering. One of the things some companies can do is match your donations. That might be important to you. Other things they can do is help you with mentoring, is help you with learning. There's so many resources these large organizations have. If you just think about the intranets of these large organizations and imagine just opening it up and saying, you can access this. That's the biggest thing people miss, is access to the stuff and the things of this tremendous organization. So they've now gone to a new organization and like, oh, what was that one PowerPoint I once saw last year when I was there that I could grab? That's why people take their files with them. That's why people take their stuff with them, because, this company had an amazing way to encapsulate the conversation points. So they're not leaving with a big, get out of my life. They're leaving and taking stuff with them. That's a compliment. And so how do you maintain and provide them that continued access to the things they loved about your organization?
Let me ask you a question. Were you ever laid off in your career?
Yes, I was laid off my first job. It was in fast food. I was told I wasn't management potential.
I got laid off.
He was right.
I got laid off on my birthday. Can you imagine?
Oh.
And it was in advertising, and it was for a lot of reasons, the biggest of which is my company was going through a consolidation, and I was expensive. But when I got cast off, it felt like I was at my own funeral. It was horrible because I knew I was going to be severed from these people that I had grown to love.
Right.
What you've done here is really remarkable, because at the end of a working relationship, you want to know that you are transiting to your next chapter with all the friendships and relationships of the past still intact and leverageable. And I think back to my time almost 30 years ago when this first happened to me, and I was traumatized. I didn't want to get up out of bed. I was not eating. I wasn't sleeping. And to know that you are still part of the family has to be, from a health and wellness standpoint, a huge, huge driver.
Why would you do it any other way? We have one company where a manager, when someone leaves his organization or his team and goes to another company, 2 weeks later, sends them a box of cookies with a card that says, we miss you. Yeah. However, we hope you're doing amazingly. If you need anything from us or our team, we will always support you throughout your career. And I was like, what? How do you, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that is just, I was like, is that a company program? And he was like, no. He's like, it's the right thing to do. These are people, this person might be my boss in 5 years. He's like, people misunderstand. The world is moving so fast. You have no idea where stuff is going to intersect. And if you don't treat every relationship like gold dust, then you're literally throwing your minutes away. And it's so true. And so I take a lot of wisdom from him, because I was like, that is just such an amazing thing to do. Why wouldn't I check in with someone a few weeks later? And so we've actually implemented that in our platform, a way that when someone leaves, automatically a little bit later, it checks in. How are you doing? Anything we can help you with? What can we do? Best of luck. And yes, it's automated. Yes, it comes from a robot, but it does make people smile, because it's just a recognition that you left, but you didn't leave. If that makes sense.
And who doesn't like cookies?
and also cookies. Yeah.
Right.
And even if you hated the organization, I mean, you talked about Target. Target offer, I think it's a 7% discount to all of their alumni at the stores. So it doesn't matter how much you disliked leaving, you're still going to sign up for their alumni program, because 7% is 7%. And no one has ever got out of Target without, spending at least 3 digits. You walk in for a battery, and you walk out with a cart full of stuff. So organizations have things that aren't always driven by your relationship or your employment, whether that is a discount, whether that is access to something, whether that's thought leadership. And Target can now rebuild any relationship. Maybe you did leave because you didn't like your manager. Maybe you did leave because you didn't find that next role. And I think people forget about that. They're like, oh, you always leave because you didn't like your manager. Maybe you weren't ready for that next job, to be honest. Maybe that's why you didn't get it. And that's okay as well.
My parents' generation thought that they would have one career track in their life. It would have a beginning, a middle, and an end with a gold watch and a retirement party. I'm going to be 60 next year. I am already into my fourth career act. And I think that is going to be the norm for a lot of people, certainly for your generation and the generations to follow, James. And I think how we keep work meaningful is by doing what your clients are doing, is encouraging people to, like you said, in so many words, take ownership of your career story and be able to articulate where you want to be in 2 years, which is great. On the idea of meaningful work, now we call meaningful work that's profound, protects the planet, empowers people and communities, and is fun to do. And I want to know from you, how do we keep the work that we do meaningful? What are your thoughts on that?
So I have two. The first is I love your concept about, job for life. There was a phrase I heard the other day that I think is so applicable. It's my dad had one job for life. I'm going to have 4 jobs in my life. My kid has 4 jobs right now. And,
there you go.
I think that's part of meaningful. Meaningful is the ability to try, test, explore. I've always told every organization or individual that I've mentored, have a side gig. Have a side gig because it will open up your network. It will open up your opportunities. You're going to find something that you're passionately excited about, whatever that might be. But ultimately, the only way to make work meaningful is it's got to be meaningful to both parties.
Right.
If you're saving the world but hating it, then it's not meaningful. And there are plenty of saving the world jobs that I don't want to do. I don't want to be in the middle of the ocean cleaning it up because I'd quite like to be with my family here. So there's plenty of roles that can be meaningful to the earth, but not to me as an individual. So I really think it's about this relationship of you've got to find your purpose. And again, your purpose can still include earning money, buying a house, private school, whatever those things are.
Indeed.
And you can still talk about it. And I think that's the first step. Talk about it, be okay with it. And the more you talk about it, the less it's a thing. The more you talk about leaving a company, the less of a thing it becomes when you do leave. And the more it becomes amazing. We can't wait to see you back here soon. I think it's British Airways that when a senior executive leaves, the letter they write says, good luck with your offsite training. We'll see you back here in a couple of years.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's just human. Can you imagine a company doing that 20 years ago?
No.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Oh, don't let the door smack you in the ass when you leave was 20 years ago.
You're a traitor. This is treasonous. We might kill you. We might sue you before you even get there just to make sure you don't go there. It's gone from that concept to literally, we know we're a great employer. You'll come back and we can't wait for it.
Listen, I worked for one of those Lord of the Flies companies, and the guy basically said to me, I don't want to talk to you again. Then I became a recruiter. Guess who called me? I'm out of a job. Can you help me? And I'm like, well, I don't know.
People who don't realize your net worth is your network. And I hate to use a coiny phrase, I think it's a title of a book, but it just is. Every relationship and everything you do in your life is leading to your network. And you just have no idea how it's all going to come together. And people who essentially ruin those relationships are hurting themselves. They're the only people being hurt by it. You'll be fine. You're going to do great. It's going to be me that, was spiteful or had hate around it or said, never talk to me again. It's going to come back to me because when I lose my job and come to you and say, help, you're going to be like, yeah, let me show you the one side of the door.
and the training and the empowerment that comes out of the tools that you offer enable really enterprising talent to own their authority of their thought leadership. And that to me is critical because I think to have this kind of work relationship where I might be a hybrid who's got a day job and a side hustle. I might have a bunch of side hustles. I might have a few side hustles and some nonprofit endeavors that I'm doing. But at the end of the day, my elevator pitch is, this is what I do, and I do really well, and I'm passionate about it.
And by the way, go speak to my 900 people I've impacted, because this is my army right behind me. And
There
I
you
think
go.
that's the final sentence. This is my army. And that's what people need. If you want to, create change, you need an army. You need to look over your shoulders and know you're supported and you've got people there. And so training, education, learning, whatever it is, I think the conversation around meaningful work is just, how do we make you happy? And if we make you happy, it will pay dividends back to the organization. They've just got to work out how to put a KPI on it. That's the trouble with organizations. How do we put that into a bar chart?
Right.